Ladies and gentlemen, Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, February 8th is now in session. If you'd put all phones on silent, stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father God, I give you thanks for another day of life and for the blessings that you have showered upon us. Lord, I thank you for this nation in which we live and for the freedoms in which we have. I ask, Lord, for your protecting hand to cover this nation. I ask you, Father, for your guidance for our leaders and for this Board of Commissioners. Father, I ask you for our wisdom this evening. I ask that our words and our decisions in which we make tonight be honoring unto you, and that they be for the benefit of the citizens in which we serve. And we thank you for all of this, and I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to take chairman's privilege for a minute after we have the roll call.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Liner.
Here.
Commissioner McCabe.
Here.
Commissioner Sampson.
Here.
Commissioner Tyson.
Here.
Vice Chairman Dacey.
Here.
Chairman Mark.
Here. I'd like to call on the county manager to come up, make a presentation.
Sir, let me just check the other room to see if the person I'm looking for is here. Would you mind postponing that chairman's privilege? for
Okay.
a couple minutes?
We have a change to the agenda in that instead of public hearing as being one, we're going to make that 1A, and one will be Ron Antry on the report of unpaid taxes. Unless there's any other changes, I'd ask for approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ron Antry?
Good evening. General Statute 105, 369A requires that each time, at this time each year, I report to the board the unpaid taxes from 2017, from the previous, or the current fiscal year rather, that are unpaid, that are a lien on real property. Excuse me. And for this year, that amount is $1,562,531.57. The uncollected amount represents a tax collection percentage thus far through the close of business today of 96.28%, which is higher than at this same time last year. Last year's percentage was 95.90, so we're about 38/100% higher than we were last year this time, which amounts to about $131,000 in revenue. Are there any questions about the figures that I just presented to you?
Are there any questions by any of the commissioners? Being no questions, go ahead.
All right. If there are none, then the next item is, having presented this figure, I need to request that the board authorize the publication of the tax liens in the Sun Journal on April 16th of this year.
Okay. Do I have a motion by the board to,
Second.
all in favor, say aye? Aye. Nays? Approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call on the county manager.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for taking the privilege to allow me to make a quick presentation. As the board knows, Scott Harrelson, who's standing behind me, I hope now, is our health director. And I'm really pleased to let you know that Scott was honored as the 2018 Health Director of the Year for the state of North Carolina. We are really pleased with that, and I wanted to just read you a brief statement from the press release about Scott. And it said, the North Carolina Health Director of the Year Award was created by the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners and is implemented through the North Carolina Association of Local Health Directors as an affiliate of the NCACC, and is given to an individual for outstanding leadership in both public health in North Carolina and for leadership and involvement in local community and civic activities. And I think Scott personifies that for Craven County as our health director. And I just wanted to recognize him tonight before the commissioners. And Scott, I know you don't know, not sure if you have something prepared or not, but I'll certainly like to turn the microphone over to him for a second.
Thank you, sir. It was a surprise to me. It was a pleasant surprise, kind of a once-in-a-career thing. And I wanted to say that without the support of the Board of Health, county manager, and all of you up here, because a lot of the things that were put in that application were things that we brought to you for your consideration. You weighed the facts and said, let's do it, let's move forward. So, you know, I do appreciate it very much.
On the board's half, I think the board will agree that it goes to the right person.
Thank you, Commissioner Barker, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on the agenda is public hearing on CDBG Neighborhood Revitalization Grant. Ann Bumgard.
Good evening. Before we actually open the grant, I wanted to take a few minutes to go through the process of explaining what the purpose of the public hearing is going to be, which is to receive input from the local community as it relates to community needs that deal with Hurricane Matthew recovery efforts. The state of North Carolina has made some community development block grant funding available. It's called the NR program. The amount of money available is $750,000. It's up to each local unit of government that did have damage during Hurricane Matthew to actually prepare an application to hold 2 public hearings, with the first public hearing to receive input on activities or public facilities improvements that will support housing activities to low and moderate income persons that were impacted as a result of Hurricane Matthew. The actual date that the deadline is given for the application to be received by the state is February 28th. And this is the first of 2 public hearings. The second public hearing we propose on February 19th, and that at that time we will be providing feedback as to the specific activities we plan to apply for in order to request funding for this particular program. So at this time, we can certainly, if the chairman so chooses, we can receive any input from citizens as it relates to any housing or public infrastructure needs that were impacted from Hurricane Matthew.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And now in public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, one person has signed up for our hearing this evening, Reverend John Robinson.
Good evening. Good to be with you today. I'm the Reverend John A. Robinson, Jr. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister who moved down here about 2.5 years ago. I am the vice chair of the Craven County Disaster Recovery Alliance. It's a collaborative of more than 12 local organizations and agencies, including the Red Cross and Habitat for Humanity and United Way. We are working with families who still have needs for Matthew. Matthew was a widespread disaster for the state. The state's taking the time that it did to figure out how it wanted to allocate funds and what kind of response it wanted to make delayed the ability of organizations like ourselves to be able to respond to those needs. I encourage you, even though this may seem like a late date to be working on Hurricane Matthew, to apply for these funds and to especially set aside funds for families who still have housing needs. We know that the county is working with a number of families now, and we're seeking to develop a collaboration with them, and we're very happy to work with your community development and planning department to move forward. Our intention is to work forward on some of those cases that are the most urgent and don't need to wait until this application process is finished. There aren't enough funds within what you've already received to cover everyone's needs. So this grant isn't just a supplemental grant. It's money that you need in order to meet the needs of your citizens in recovering from the hurricane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Chairman, there are no additional speakers that have signed up.
All right, do I have a motion to go out of public hearing? Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next is petition of citizens.
Mr. Chairman, we've got 7 individuals that have signed up. First one is Susan Long.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, while she's walking up, I think you need to authorize the second public hearing on February 19th tonight. Mr. Baumgardner.
Do we need to set that public hearing?
Well, we actually did set that public hearing at a previous meeting, but certainly from the standpoint of the public and to, without having any doubt about it, if you will, again, reauthorize to have that public hearing on the 19th, that will be a morning meeting at that particular time on Monday, the 19th.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you again.
Will there be a third, fourth, and a fifth public hearing on this issue?
No, there will not. Just to do away with any confusion, there's actually 2 community development block grants that one we have received to date, and that's called a disaster recovery grant. This community development block grant is called a neighborhood revitalization recovery grant associated with Hurricane Matthew. So there's actually two grants. One we have received and one we're applying for, and this is $750,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairman?
Susan Long. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is.
You'd
Thank
state
you.
your name and address, please.
Sure. Susan Long, 1990 Acorn Drive, New Bern, North Carolina. For nearly 100 years, a major sticking point in debates about the ERA has been whether women should be classified as mothers or as people. But I argue that in addition to being mothers, we are every class, we are every age, we are single, we are married, we are childless, we are breadwinners, we are of every color, we are of every religion, we are leaders, we are politicians, we are military, and yes, some of us are mothers. We are many things, and we have proven we can do many things. While we all are not mothers, we all are people. We deserve to be treated fairly and equally. My mother was very instrumental in my development. She was the one who was there for me 24/7. Without her support, I would not have been able to be a successful adult. I owe her a tremendous amount. She is the one who made me strong and able to stand up for what I believe in. She was the one who told me I could do anything and be anything I wanted to be. But how can we be all that we want to be when our state laws are not uniform, our federal laws are not comprehensive, and all of our protective acts, protective titles can be revised, they can be reduced, they can be repealed, they can be gutted, they can be just taken away at the whim of the changing tides of the political agendas and administrations. Enacting bits of legislation and bits of equality has proven to be a mighty poor excuse to substitute for the bedrock guarantee that would be found in the ERA. Women do not want special rights, they want equal rights. So what's holding up the ERA? I say it's fear. Fear is the number one thing that holds people back. The Equal Rights Amendment will not cause men to have to change more diapers or cook more meals. Let's get real here. Men already take care of many of the household tasks. We even have commercials now showing men using a Swiffer or washing the little cowgirl dress and pushing strollers. So they do all this stuff. If parenthood, that's the key word, parenthood, became prioritized over motherhood, and if women, like men, were classified as people rather than first and foremost as mothers, then many of the remaining barriers that women face would be removed. The ERA is not going to change who you fundamentally are. What it will do is even the playing field for all men and women. It will make women equal. We are here tonight asking you, our county commissioners, to support the women of Craven County by adopting a resolution supporting the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Ben Bowditch.
My name's Ben Bowditch, and I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Regional Library System, which operates 4 libraries here in Craven County.
Mr. Bowditch, if you would, could you, your address, please? Thanks.
Oh, I live on Headwaters Drive in Oriental. Again, I'm chair of the Regional Library System. We operate 4 libraries here in this county. And I'm here to thank you very much for your generous support of those libraries and tell you that we work very hard to deliver good services in all of those communities. In addition to the 4 libraries that we operate here, we operate 5 in Carteret County and 1 in Pamlico County. So a second thing I'd like to thank you for is supporting the region, which is the operation that provides services to those libraries, very much so, including housing our staff at the library in New Bern. Finally, I think that belonging to the region has benefits for all of the 3 counties that are involved, but none more so than my home county of Pamlico, who frankly would struggle mightily if it weren't for the regional operation. So I thank you for including Pamlico in the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hal James.
I'm Hal James. I live at 305 Calico Drive in New Bern, North Carolina, spokesperson for the Coastal Carolina Taxpayers Association. Some really hard-working, I'd say salt-of-the-earth type people, and maybe I should say salt-of-the-sea, are having their lifestyle threatened. These people have families that go back into the 1700s and been a vital part of North Carolina's history for a long, long time. And you've already passed one resolution, which was proposed by Commissioner Scott Dacey to oppose House Bill 867, which pretty much would have taken away their livelihood. And I think it was very well founded, and it was very well worded. I see tonight that he's passed out something else in support of those people. What that bill would have done is eliminate this advisory commissions that support the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission. That commission used to be at one time fairly well balanced between commercial fishermen, recreational fishermen, and scientists. But here recently it's gotten terribly unbalanced, and the commercial fishermen and their families are finding themselves on the real short end of that balance. They're not able to do very much through that commission to help their situation. And that means that commission has basically become the enemy of our commercial fishers and their families. Now, there's a book that's called The Fish House Opera right here. I would recommend it to everybody that doesn't really know it any more than I did when I first started looking into this about the business. And it's a very complicated business. But I asked my wife to read it after I had read it, And it so clearly describes the plight that these people are facing that only reading the prelogue, she burst into tears. I know Raina's a soft-hearted person, but I mean to tell you, that book is powerful. It really tells you how these families suffer and how overregulation and government interference and things like that, this commission being turned around has really affected their lives. So I want to just read again the resolved portion of that resolution that y'all passed some time ago. Now therefore be it resolved that the Craven County Board of Commissioners hereby opposes North Carolina House Bill 867 in its entirety and respectfully requests that North Carolina legislators reject this legislation and support the state of North Carolina's working watermen in order to sustain a way of life for many future generations and preserve a vital economic engine for North Carolina. It was adopted on the 15th day of May 2017, and I'm here to tell you that that fight is happening all over again, and do anything you can to support these people.
Thank you.
Mr. Glenn Fink.
Glenn Fink, 646 Goose Creek Road. I stand in support of the commercial fishing industry and those persons involved in that as well. I support a resolution similar to that that's been passed by Dare County that I hope this board will consider, which bite by bite is trying to steal away the livelihood of this industry and these folks. If you hadn't had a chance to recently attend North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission meeting, I've attended them here in New Bern and in Wilmington, you'll find that the will of the people nor the will of the subcommittees of that commission is being heard or acted on. And it's a shame. It's a highly political board. It's gotten even more so recently. And I think it's mission critical. This is a critical industry in our area. They're hardworking people, and I hope you'll stand behind them in any way you can. When I attended one of those meetings, just a quick example of how this ends up working. They had technical people sharing information that was detrimental to the fishing people of that group. And they're on record of them saying, well, we didn't over-manipulate the data to come to the conclusions that we did, that tried to over-regulate them. And that is a fact. You can look, if it's on record any place, I can tell you that was said. So I just ask for your support of the commercial fishing group.
Thank you.
Ray Griffin.
God bless you. Advancement, North Carolina, 1981 Streets Ferry Road. And I have to ask you the question, what is truth? What is truth? More values and custom versus laws. We have passed gun laws, but it haven't stopped the killing. We have passed drug laws, and it hasn't stopped the drunk driver. We see the NFL player was killed this weekend by a drunk driver. We passed drug laws, and that hasn't stopped anything. I've done an overdose funeral this weekend, and say little people major on minors, but big people are busy engaging in things that really matter. We major on truly important things of life. Our society is crying out for reformation and a change for the truth. While this country desperately needs is regeneration to a spiritual renewal, only Christ can bring purity and peace. Peace is not found in psychology or sociology, but in Jesus Christ. There must be freedom with justice for all, but social problems are not settled by legislation. There must be the will to do right. What this nation needs us to do today is to cease from human search for peace and turn in repentance to the Prince of Peace. That is the path individuals must follow. When humanism gets rid of God, it has to deny the reality of sin and create mass confusion. Unfortunately, people like the Clintons, Obamas, Nancy Pelosi, Roy Cooper, all those who support them have disregarded without appreciation the role that moral values and custom and traditions have played in creating a civilized society. They are against everything the Bible stands for, and now we are paying the price. We know that is truth. Nobody can deny that. What the Democrats want is political salvation, delivered from dominion by God, but what they need is personal salvation, delivered from dominions of sin. Pilate said to Christ, So art thou the Christ? Jesus answered, I came into the world that I shall be a witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. We cannot deny the truth. Sadly, abortions have taken away more than guns, more than killing of drugs, and the more drug drivings. And who supports abortions? The Democratic Party. I love you to death. I appreciate it. But the Democrats are bringing America, those people that are in rule, bringing us down to the lowest level. And you guys know it's the truth. I don't have to tell you this. You know it. But I think we need to be reaffirmed. What is truth? The truth is the truth, and we cannot deny what they stand for, what they're doing, and how they are going about it. And I say today, we need to check our thoughts, we need to check our train of thought, we need to look at this Democratic Party and see what's going on and realize what is the truth and what they stand for. They stand for homosexuality, they stand for anything against marriage, they believe in anything can happen, whatever, and they say that is truth. So how many of you will stand with me and say we need the truth back in America? We need the God's honest truth. We need some people to stand up, get fired up, get prayed up, and get ready to go up, and not afraid to tell the truth. Would you all agree with me there? We must agree. We must tell the truth. We're living in a world, we see what happened today, the stock market and different things, 11,000 points. We're going to see some serious things coming eventually. And why? Because we had denied the very essence of God. God's coming back in all his glory, and we might as well get ready and get prepared, because the truth is the truth. Amen?
Thank you, Reverend.
Gerald Anderson? I believe he's in the other room.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I was over there. Let me, I got y'all a file here.
Give that to the county
Manager.
clerk. Gerald, if you'd state your name and your address, please.
Okay. Gerald Anderson, 131 Quail Woods Drive, Newbern. What I'm here for tonight, gentlemen, is I haven't been before you, but there's a few things that I just cannot take no more, just cannot tolerate no more. And that is our sheriff's department. I've done too much for this county, did too many things, and I'll be glad to list them on any board compared to anybody else of the things that I got done for this county, including Highway 17, number of things, the tourism tax, I passed that bill, and all that, and I've done a lot of things, but I've had nothing but problems. If they go to me, just like I'll start you off with the first example and just tell you. The first one was I had a former deputy sheriff that called me over 2 years after an incident where they went on my property and tore up land and things like that and told me that, Gerald, I want to ask you to forgive me for it, that I made a mistake, that I told something not true on you, and said, I want to ask you to forgive me. I told him I said I would. And I told him, I said, you don't find many people with that kind of backbone. I said, I appreciate you calling me and telling me that. But gentlemen, I'm here tonight to tell you that I've had nothing but problems. Here's what I brought you. I brought you a picture. It's in your packet. You see that gate there on a place that I put up and stuff. Last June the 15th, my wife is here with me and her sister and her husband from Australia. I told them to come on. I let them see good government in North Carolina. We're here tonight, but I had this gate put up because of a letter that I got from one of the tenants that was in our trailer park complaining of the drug situation. My wife has got in her pocketbook here with her tonight 2 needles. We'd go out and pick up drug needles and all of that. But every time I call the sheriff's department, it's always after me. I can hardly sleep at night now for the last 3 years, where I had a car on that property hit me 3 times. I got a picture of the bruises and all that. You know who they found guilty? Me. I hadn't done a thing on our property and things like that. So what happened to my gate after I got it put up? The sheriff's department gave someone permission to pull it down. That's the other picture that you will see with it, where it was pulled down and tore up. You know. And he's been telling me since, I was trying to find it, there it is right there. Tore a piece of pulled post where I had them settled in the ground with concrete and stuff, and tore it up. My wife wrote him a letter on September the 15th about it. That letter has not been answered as of today. He saw her, she can testify to it, in the First Citizens Bank. He said, I'm going to take care of it. I called the county manager on it, if he remembers correctly. I called him on it. Jerry told me he had taken the county manager out there to see it. The county manager said, Gerald said, I'll be honest with you, said he might have mentioned it to me, said, but I don't remember it right off. Said, I'm not saying he didn't, and I'm not saying he didn't, because you've got one of as good a county managers as any county could have tonight. But I know he didn't go out there and look at it. So I told him 2 weeks ago to forget the gate. Me and my wife will put it back up, about $1,200. Well, let me tell you another. You see that thumb right there? I had one that they pulled a trailer on our trailer park. I hadn't rented no trailer to somebody, and the deputy that came out there to it, he told me I better not go to it. I said, well, sir, I didn't rent no trailer place. I said, the man was still hooked to it, that moves trailers. I said, he's got to move it. He said, if you go over there, I'm going to arrest you. That same deputy was called to another situation on the lake in Quail Woods, where we're on the lake with a boat with a bunch of kids in it with no life jackets and all that, and it's written in the restricted covenants, if you'll go read them, that lake is private, no boat can go on that lake. But did he do anything about it? No. He arrested me, put handcuffs behind my back, took me in, and I asked him to take them out. I just had that finger operated on, and I asked him to put them in front of me. He did not put them in front of me. You know what I had to do? Go have another operation. I got the file right here from the doctor on that hand and things. So I've had about all I want to tell you. Y'all are a good group of people. I'm proud to live in Craven County. But there's just some things, just like, let me just give you one example and then close it. I can't even drive the highways. I've been here I paid anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. I was in the logging business 38 years on all that equipment, plus the taxes on Quail Woods, Hunter's Ridge, Oakview, and all that I paid in taxes. He won't even return my wife's phone call or my phone call in this county that I pay taxes on. And why should I have to pay taxes in this county, you know, if I can't get the service and things like that? I've been treated very unfairly, and I could go in a lot of things if I just had the time that you just wouldn't believe. But I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. I had a deputy tell me, the last example was after the snow, and I'll close in this if you'll just give me just about a minute more.
Gerald, you're entitled to come back again, but we allow 4 minutes to each person. Is everything that you've told us in that folder?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for coming tonight.
You'll see the pictures of it, and I can give you a lots more if you'll just sit down with me and I can show it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Jerry Schill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jerry Schill. I live at 1406 Oxford Lane in New Bern. I speak to you on behalf of the North Carolina Fisheries Association. I've been with that organization starting in 1987. That's before all of the commissioners were born, I believe. But anyway, I've represented a commercial fisherman in this state for a long time, let's put it at that. It accounts for the white hair. And we're under siege, and we're asking for help. I talked to Commissioner Dacey and Commissioner Jones about this issue. And I want to also thank you for the resolutions that you've passed here previously regarding House Bill 867, which Hal James referenced a little earlier. Also, you showed a lot of support a year ago, January, when our shrimp boats were docked out at Union Point, and we had quite a public meeting there at the convention center. But it's been like no time in the 30 years that I've been involved. I keep telling fishermen, this is not just your battle. There's something going on in this country about the working class, that they're relegated to somewhere they shouldn't be. I like to reference it, the ones that produce, the ones that wear out their deodorant, that have the calluses, they make things, they produce food, and they shouldn't be forgotten. They should be held high. And the resolution that I'm going to commend to you this evening is the one that was passed by Dare County Board of Commissioners recently, and that was in reference to changing the definition of a commercial fisherman. We've dealt with this issue for 30 years, multiple times, and study after study, it all comes back the same. Let's just keep it the way it is, and that's what we're asking the Marine Fisheries Commission to do. If the Marine Fisheries Commission does elect next week to go forth with this, it's not a done deal. It does have to go to the General Assembly and go through those two bodies and signed by the governor. So we're working those avenues as well, but we just would like to stop it where it needs to be stopped, and that is at the Marine Fisheries Commission. My title, by the way, I stepped down as head of the organization in April. I am now the Director of Government Relations for the organization. When I say to my wife in the morning I'm going to the office, I walk out the back door about 70 feet to my camper. That's my office now. And I wish I could say it. It's very calm and collective, but she comes out and bothers me a lot. The other thing I wanted to mention, as chairman of the God and Country Christian Alliance, the issue of the Equal Rights Amendment. We did discuss it briefly at our January meeting, and we are going to be taking that up in more detail at our February meeting, and when we do so, we'll come back with a recommendation from our organization. Again, thank you so much for your support of the working class, not just in this county, but up and down the coast, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerry.
Mr. Chairman, there are no more individuals who have chosen to sign up for this evening.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of January 16th, tax releases and refunds. The board will be pressed to approve taxes refunds. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
I do move.
Motion, second.
Second. Who was the
Uh,
second?
Mr. Sampson.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Craig Singleton for the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council. Morning. Or good evening, rather.
Yes, it is. Chairman Mark, Commissioner McCabe, Commissioner Sampson, Commissioner Dacey, Commissioner Liner, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Tyson. About 2 years ago, I came before you for the first time as it related to the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council. A year ago, I came before you and you made an investment in the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council. And tonight, I'm pleased to say that you've made a massive return on your investment in the tune of $225,000 that was awarded to the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council November 14, 2017. Thank you. And I know it's always important and kind of nerve-wracking to make a lot of the decisions that you guys have to make, and I respect that. But I'm pleased to say with that money, we'll be going towards helping our returning citizens make their adjustment back to society in way of education, housing, transportation, food, clothing, substance abuse, mental health, and child care. We was blessed to also take that money and allocate it to 2 full-time positions. One person will be focused in Craven County, and I want to introduce him to you. His name is Patrick Mosley. He's a younger me, Praise God for that. And the full-time case manager that will be focused in Pamlico County is the lovely Miss Tanya Shaw. With this budgeting, of course, there's always things that we're not able to allocate money for within that grant. So I will have Ms. Monica Minus to come and articulate the message as it relates to the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council's budget.
Good evening, members of the commission and Mr. Chairman. I would like to submit on behalf of the Craven Reentry Council's projected fiscal year budget. In this budget, you will see what we project for this upcoming year. We are in the process of submitting information to become a nonprofit. Many funding state foundation organizations request a nonprofit to submit applications to receive funding. So we have acquired from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, as Mr. Singleton has stated, $225,000. And what our projected budget for particularly the actual revenues, what we have is about $228,742,000. Highlighted, we are in need of some assistance, particularly in this information. You will see it's highlighted based upon our monthly maintenance of website equipment, particularly for our case managers, as well as for marketing, printing, and copying. So we are moving forward quickly. There are funding opportunities out there that will exceed what we are asking for, and so much more. And we will ask you to please consider this on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since the last time I was blessed with the opportunity to stand before you, I have been, I don't know if I want to use the word dispatch, but I have been asked to go, in which I've already been, to Nash, Edgecombe, Wilson, Cumberland County, Halifax County, Wayne County, and presented in front of Roy Cooper's cabinet as it relates to the progress of the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council. They are very excited about the way we do things here in Craven and how we have come together collectively to be the leading force as it relates to our reentry initiative in Eastern North Carolina. And again, I want to give a special thanks to the county manager, because we ran into a little pickle, and he quickly responded to my emails to continue to support the work of the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council. In conclusion, for anyone in the audience that is not familiar with the Reentry Council, we have 3 missions, and that is to reduce recidivism, and that's the cycle of returning back to prison. 2, it's a public safety issue, because in order to rescind, you must commit another crime, so we want to intercept that. Also, the collateral costs of incarceration, and we know that our county pay a lot of money for the cost of incarceration. And with the initiative of the ongoing support of our county and our city, we will reduce recidivism in Craven County. Thank you all for the opportunity to stand before you once again.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Singleton?
Yes, sir.
As you know, of course, and thank you very much for all of your hard work, we did make an investment in you and your colleagues. And I'm hopeful that within a relatively short period of time, you will be able to not just demonstrate to us that there's been a return in that investment by you having been successful in securing more grant money, but that we can find true success in the achievements that you folks have made by way of the diversion programs. We would like to see substantial numbers, some substantive numbers,
Absolutely.
to come forward and to demonstrate to us exactly what sort of outcomes have been able to be achieved through this. This ought not be, let's just figure out a way to get more money.
Right.
This should be a way to figure out how we're going to hit the points that our goals are here, how we're going to keep these people out of jail and not returning into a cycle of incarceration.
Absolutely.
So I'm hopeful that you'll be coming back to us with that information soon.
Oh, absolutely, and I look forward to doing that. There was actually an article in the paper on a young man who had did 10 years and returned back to this county. I was able to reach out to Sabrina Bingo after he went through the vetting process of the job readiness boot camp, and he is successfully employed now, and he's loving his job. They actually
And the
did-
job readiness boot camp is part of your operation?
Yes, it is. It's a part of the Craven Community
That's what we need to hear
College.
about.
Yes, it's a vetting process, because, during an interview process, you only get to see that person when they stand before you. But we want to vet our returning citizens to make sure that all the soft skills necessary are intact. So not only do they get a job, but they're able to keep a job. That's what the focus is, and I guarantee you, we've already been able to assist 132 returning offenders, and we look forward to producing solid numbers through the CART system, which is a state database, where we would be entering all that information, and I proudly come before you to produce those numbers at that time.
Mr. Singers, and also, I heard about someone had donated a house for the ladies who on Second Avenue.
Yes.
And so we are not leaving the women out.
No, sir.
They are going to jail too, but we're gonna help them all.
Yes, yes. It was actually a gentleman from New York who originally resided here in Craven, and he heard about the work of the Craven Pamlico Reentry Council, and we talked on the phone, and I'm not used to nobody donating a house. I didn't really know what to do with it, but give God the praises. But we are Benita Simmons, which is a part of our housing for women. She's working with Habitat for Humanity to rehab that facility and make it a dwelling for females, because that population is increasing beyond reproach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the ABC Board, Brian Gatchell, attorney.
Good evening, board members. I'm Brian Gatchell, 405 Emmon Road here in New Bern. I am here to talk with you about the next phase in the construction of the replacement ABC store in Bridgeton. We are here tonight to ask for board action up or down upon our request to retain $165,000 out of ABC gross receipts for a period of 10 years, specifically for the acquisition of the property and the construction of the ABC store in Bridgeton. You have the slides there. I'll advance the North Carolina General Statutes requires us to get your approval to retain that money. This is the first mock-up. You can see it's going to be on Highway 17, Pine Street and Academy Street. You can see that it'll be a 5,800 square feet, $240 cost per square foot. But this is really the nuts and bolts of what we're trying to do here. Simply, we will be servicing the loan for a period of 10 years, $165,000. There is no prepayment penalty, so if we have the opportunity to do better, we can pay it down in advance. As you know, the ABC board has recently been increasing the amount of revenue. We've recently gotten over $600,000 being paid to the county in direct revenue. And I want to be clear that a conservative estimate over the life of the loan is that the ABC board will continue to pay $650,000 as indicated there. Those are just kind of the highlights there, and I am happy to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Okay, before we go into discussion, can I have a motion?
So move.
A second? Second. Discussion.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Lyon.
I have a number of questions to bring up. I appreciate you coming forward with this. I know we all approved to move forward for the land. I got a little bit concerned after reading the point paper that was presented to us, and then also the article that was put in the paper last Friday or Saturday, I don't know which one. The interview that was done on the store, making a statement, and I know this, I want you to tell me, I don't think it can be true, but it was written, so I want the public to be aware that that store was going to be completed 1 June of 18.
No, Commissioner.
Okay. Well, the public reads that paper.
I understand. Look,
I read that paper and almost fell out of my chair. You know, I know it can't happen, but once it's in print, and that's why I wanted it on the record, it's not going to be 18. It cannot be 18.
No,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Okay. That one.
We have not yet finished acquiring the property.
Okay. Next thing is, there's nowhere, no place in here that it relates to what the savings is going to be for the rent, utilities, and salaries that's going to be saved once we close the James City store and open up the Bridgeton store, because right now, we're renting that store, is that not correct?
That's correct, sir.
So what's the savings projected in that? And it's not listed in here that I found anyway.
Yes, Commissioner Liner, I do not have that information for you today. I apologize, but I'd be happy to provide that to you.
Well, and I think that's something that we need to take a look at and move forward on, because depending on how much that saving is also gonna depend on how much, why you would need the full $165,000 if that savings is part of that. You know, I don't know that. I don't know how much that is.
Sir, it doesn't offset that kind of
Come up.
money.
Mr. Chairman, who is this fellow?
Good evening, sir. I am Chip Shagden. I am the chairman of the Craven County ABC Board. Sir, good question. The answer to that is that it offsets about $45,000 to $50,000 a year in rent. Of course, the utilities and those kinds of things, the security and so forth will be a wash. There would be no savings there. So yes, there would be a savings, and that money was included in the estimate. And of course, if we get any additional money, that will come to the county or to the municipalities in the ratio proportion of 90-10. So we don't maintain any of that money. It all comes to you. And it's still, we're talking about roughly about 35, I think 37,000 a year.
Okay, move on. I still get,
So, Commissioner Liner, so is, I guess, am I hearing that?
yeah, exactly. If it's $40,000 or $50,000 a year in rent, and I have a question based on utilities as well, because your utilities now are under New Bern Electric. Bridgeton is gonna be under Progress Energy, which is almost half that cost. So I'm not gonna doubt there won't be no savings there. But you just opened up $40,000 or $50,000 a year in rent. Could mean $40,000 or $50,000 off of your $165,000 a year that you're wishing to hold back. Because the 10 years at $165,000 gets at 1.65 for a total cost, and your total cost of your project is 1.4. So it gives you $200,000 more than what's in here. So that's one question. I don't expect you to probably answer that tonight, but those are questions that I want to know about and go on to. And the next question, why could you not take your operational budget for last year was $1.67 million, with a state authority of 1.9 that you could have moved up to having for operational. Why could you not take the 13.5 monthly that it's going to cost for this 165 a year out of your operational budget and move that for it instead of holding this money back? And the next question is this 165,000 going to be set in a separate account? Because I look at this, it can't go into the general operating fund because it'll put you over your statutory authority. So, and if that's the case, if it's going into a different account, then what's that set up for? What's it gonna be set for?
Okay, well, the question you had about the operational account, that's mandated by the state. We do keep the maximum amount. We keep nothing in any reserve. It's all operational, as you know.
I understand that.
So I don't have a whole bunch of leverage in which to just arbitrarily do that. I mean, to keep that money, I would be violating some state laws here. We would be reducing underneath their required, much like the county's required to keep 90 days or 100 and whatever. I have to do the same thing. I have to keep 6 months. So I'm in the same thing that you're in. So I really can't touch that money.
But you still are $300,000 below of what your state max is. So I'm looking at, I'm concerned about, and technically, I know you don't have to come to us, you can do this. I know you need the authority to put in that. But I'm concerned about where is it going to go, and is it into a separate account? I don't see what it's for. And if it goes into your operational account, then it's gonna exceed your authority.
Did we show the general statute?
Yes, not the text of it.
If you could, I think you probably need to show that. There's what the statute reads. For a specified capital improvement. So that's exactly what the account would state, a specialized capital improvement to wit, the store in Bridgeton.
Commissioner Leiter, am I understanding that you're wondering where the $165,000 is going?
Well, it's going for the debt. It's going for the debt service.
Right, we're
But I'm
paying
saying,
it out.
right.
Okay.
But why doesn't it come out of your operational monthly at 13.5, and that's deducted from what you give us quarterly or the annual, other than stating that ahead? I see this as being a separate account somewheres.
It would be a separate account. It is a separate account. I mean, right now, we do not have a capital improvement fund. You took that away from us 4 years ago, when we gave you all the money that we had in that fund to the board. So now we have zero in the capital investment fund.
I believe at that time in the reserve, you had somewhere in the vicinity of $200.5 million.
That's correct, sir, which came to the county. So now we have zero. And all I have in my books is what's the requirement of the state of North Carolina says that we must have to grant. I don't have 1 penny extra. It is strictly a operational account. It is not a capital account. It is not anything above that.
But that changes yearly. Your operational account changes yearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, like, I guess what I'm saying is, for this coming year, you want this board to authorize you, which authorizes probably, authorize to keep $165,000 out of the $900,000 you roughly gave us last year to pay for, say, 2020's yearly, because this is not gonna be done until sometime in 19.
That's correct.
Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. It'll be a construction loan that will be.
The loan starts then.
And be paid in 19.
I'll let somebody else move forward. I gotta think on this
No,
one.
the only thing, I think that maybe some of the commissioners weren't here 8 years ago or 6 years ago. At that time, the ABC board had, I believe, as high as $3.5 million in reserve, which was given to the county. The average amount of money given to the county by the ABC Board, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, County Manager, was about $250,000 a year
Prior to the change?
prior to the change.
I would say that or less.
Yeah. So that any of the additional funds has come from the buildup of the stores and the increase in the amount of money being paid for liquor, even though the consumption of liquor has stayed the same. So I think that that should be noted in figuring out, you know, the 165,000. What we also have to look at is we have to look at, in the future, what this store will bring back to the county. We have to have the foresight to see that we will probably get back a lot more than we're giving out in the $165,000.
We're very conservative in our estimates, sir, and I'll tell you that if any additional money, we are not going to keep it. It's going to come back to Craven County and the municipalities in which we serve. We are not, if it turns out that we do have an additional $30,000 a year, you will get 90% of that, and little Bridgeton will get 10%, believe me, and that's nothing that we keep. But I don't believe there is much, honest, we looked at the savings, the offsets, and it was very marginal.
Well, based on what you, Mr. Chair, may I continue?
Yeah, sure.
Based on what you just said, the 40 or 50,000 you're going to have from closing the James City is a significant amount for that 165,000.
Yeah, well, that's true. There is some offset, but not that much when you start looking at the operations of the new store. It's going to be twice the size, actually, it's going to be almost 2.5 times the size of James City. So it's not quite as simple as that sort of, to try to take James City and equate that to the new store.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? What's your payments gonna be?
165.
The 165, sir?
13.5 a month.
Okay, so that,
Michelle, I said something.
Commissioner Liner,
so that's exactly what the,
I know it.
I'm kind of feeling like George is. So your operation's gonna go up because the store's bigger, and you're projected that's gonna chew up most of the $40,000 or $50,000 that you would.
Well, we do, but that, we also believe, that on the conservative side, we're saying it's going to replace the James City store. We'd love to think, all the information says it's going to go higher, but we're using the James City store as the model, the modeling basis. So we have no reason to say it's going to, I cannot tell you it's going to be 40% more than James. We're using James City. That would be just a conservative estimate. So.
There's no plans in the future to open another store in that area? I know there's gonna be traffic issues for probably 5 years.
You know, our strategy calls for a second store to open up somewhere in the vicinity of 70 towards the Havelock in once this thing shows. But at this particular time, the more conservative and reasonable approach was Bridgeton now and that store a little later.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, the numbers that I come up with here, at 1.425570, at 3.4%, you've got a total payment and interest, total payments of $1,683,000. So that comes in at about $37,000 more, $32,000, whatever it is, $30-some thousand more than what you're anticipating collecting or holding back from the
correct.
amounts that you would be giving to the
That
county.
and there was the offset, some of the offset from the James City store.
Okay.
Well,
So
we didn't want to come to the board, and maybe we perhaps should have come in with the, right now to the nickel or something, but we came in with some, the larger number, but that's exactly right.
Okay.
The only thing that money can be used for is for that capital improvement improvement. So if there was $37,000 worth of excess, that would have to go to pay down the debt.
No, in fact, it wouldn't be excess, it'd be more. I see total costs here, if you've got your finance charges at 3.4% plus the loan origination fee of 0.25%, you're talking about, it's 1.6, I mean, it's about $1,690,000. I mean, so it's a bit
That's-
more than the 165.
Yes, and that's the money that we're gonna hopefully, we're gonna get out of the James City
Okay.
store, that,
Yeah, I mean, it's not earth-shattering in the whole scheme of things, it's a small amount of money, but the point is that I think that's what Commissioner Weiner's wanting to know here. We want to see the real numbers, and
yeah, well, yes, sir.
and if indeed you have not yet backed out the rent expense, then that's something that we'd like to understand. But if you have backed it out, and you said, okay, well, this is what we really need after we backed out all the expenses, then we're okay.
That's correct. We did back it all out.
I still don't love the idea of us building a new building. I wish that we'd go lease something, but, in a location that we've never tested before. But Chairman, you've done a great job over these years, and I've placed my trust in you, and I will continue to do so.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something? Before I gotta get some clarification on this before I withdraw my motion. I remember a year ago, 2 years ago, you moving the James City store to Bridgeton. And you said that so in Bridgeton, probably moved by, down further, not rent, but be a new store. Now, what happened to people in Bridgeton if they can't find no ABC store? They gotta go to New Bern or go to Bridgeton? That's not fair.
You're talking about the James City store? sir?
Yes.
Well,
Because you did say you can build one down by Taberna somewhere, about 2 years ago?
We certainly, we gave it our best shot. When we approached the subcommittee, we laid all that out to Mr. Tyson and Mr. Sampson and Mr. Mark. The board advised us really to go with one store first, and that if this gets to be successful, to come back to this board.
If it gets successful.
Yes, sir.
But I don't appreciate this here moving one store out of James City. If they ain't got nowhere to go to Bridgeton or go downtown New Bern to ABC store.
Yes, it is an additional 2 miles.
Well,
Going-
Chair, I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Well, first of all, what you have to consider here is you've got construction of the James City area that's gonna go on for 5 years. So that.
But here they say 2019, the store will be closed. That's not 5 years. Between
I'm
2008.
talking about the construction going on
Yeah,
Saturday.
I don't think it's fair for the people in James City to go to another place to receive ABC store, get liquor, and it's not fair.
Okay.
And I don't like that. Because that means if I come to James City, I got to rock across the bridge. And if it snow or rain, you can't get across the bridge, it's closed. So how people in James City can get?
Well, then the argument is the people that live on the other side of the bridge can't get over to James City for
Well, then
the
you
same reasons.
you build one in Bridgeton and keep the one in James City. We both happy. I ain't for it.
We can't afford to do that.
Commissioner, Chairman,
Yes.
just so I'm clear here, the reason that we're doing this is because we're anticipating that the James City store is going to have to close because of the construction in James City with the highway, with Highway 70.
But people still got drinking. Everybody close their door there. The store was there for the bridge come.
Well, the problem is that if this construction is going on, where else are we gonna put the store? And the thought is, I guess, that we move it over to Bridgeton while
The
this
store was
construction
supposed to
is
go
going on.
to Burner down further.
No, first of all, it wasn't affordable to go to the burner.
This
or any of
what
those
we talking
areas.
about. Well, this is the way it is.
Mr. Chairman, I started this, let me move forward. I hate to open this up, but I still got more, and I'm still, and I appreciate Commissioner Dacey's going through here, but a comment was made to the public. We all represent the public. The public sees this, I seen this, and looking at me to go for a loan, my total loan is $1.42 million. That includes fees and closing costs. So that includes your loan fee of 0.25. My way of thinking. Commissioner Dacey thinks it's a different way. You confirmed it's a different way. It's more. But the total loan is $1.425 million, not 1.68 that you've stated here and what I'm supposed to say that the public says is out there. Because you've got up here fees and closing is another 19.5 on those numbers. So I'm confused and I'm getting more confused. And I'm about as public as can get. Mr. Chairman, that's all I'm gonna say.
Loan payment's $165,000.
Yeah, it's 160, they want 165,000.
That's what the payment is, and they're financing that stuff at the bottom, right?
Yes.
So there's 100% finance, including fees and first-year construction interest, I think, and
That's
just,
Well, accepting the 269.9, right?
I'm sorry, sir?
The 269.9 we're paying out of 2000.
That's already came out. That's
Well, we
already
haven't
paid.
paid it yet, sir, but we haven't bought the land yet.
We haven't bought the land.
But I understand that money has already been obligated to put forward. Is that not correct, Mr. Chairman, through the county manager?
They came before you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
November-ish.
But that's not part of this here.
no.
No, you're right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I am not against building a store in Bridgeton, but I am against taking the one out of James City.
Sir, I can tell you this, we're not gonna close it down.
I mean, what's the population in Bridgeton and do the population in James City? You don't know?
No,
Well,
of course I do, but it's.
You
not
can't
that-
look at the population from just the standpoint of Bridgeton.
Well, I'm looking at it, because it's not fair for the people in James City. So I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Mr. Chairman, that would require consent of those, the person that seconded it.
John,
I withdraw. I withdraw.
There's two withdrawals. Is there anyone else?
For the purposes of discussion, I'll move that we move forward. I'd like to continue discussion.
I second it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, can I please ask our finance director to come forward? Mr. Warren, thank you. Is there an alternative way to address this issue?
I think quite possibly that the debt service payments could be paid out of their operating budget and not necessarily set them aside in a capital improvement fund. That would be one option. That would be my alternative to this.
And how would the taxpayer be affected by that?
Well, of course, after, the debt service is incorporated into operating budget, it would reduce the overall distributions to the counties and to the county municipalities. But I don't know that it would, distribution would be essentially the same. I think if you approve what their ask is right now, the issue becomes that these funds could be set aside in this capital reserve fund for the next 10 years. And I would imagine that the debt service payment would be paid for out of their operating budget.
Mr. Gatchell?
Yeah, whether,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
whether the funds out of the gross receipts, okay, money coming in, is saved out of operating dollars or out of borrowed money, if that is for a specified capital project, you still have to approve it. Okay? So 18B, 805, and the different statutes, they say, money comes in, this is what you have to do with it. and it says that upon the language back right here, set aside any portion of the remaining gross receipts. So if we were trying to finance it out of our back pocket rather than borrowing the money from the bank, we'd still need your approval to do it. What I think that it might impact.
Mr. Warren's not suggesting that, though.
Okay,
Am I correct? What you're suggesting here is that all receipts come back to the county, and then we write you a check back to pay that down as debt service each year. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, what my alternative suggestion is that they just they go out, they get their financing, they incorporate it into their operating budget as a debt service expenditure, and then calculate the distributions on it.
So then it becomes an expense that then we simply, that it just becomes an expense. And so as opposed to right now, it's an expense like any other expense that you've currently got. It's just that, I'll leave it at that.
I think we may be talking about the same thing. We are simply asking, we've got our banker, and we're gonna borrow money from them for 10 years, as it's specified there. And we are asking for your approval over the next 10 years to withhold out of the money that we would have normally given you, the principal and interest amount, $165,000. Whether we did that once a year, well, I imagine the good folks at First Citizens, if there was a chance that we might not get approval to pay him back, they might be reticent to loan us the money. But I'm not their lawyer. So I'm not sure that I'm understanding the distinction.
Oh, we have our lawyer, we have our banker here.
Huh?
That would be an affirmative.
That, First Citizens would find that an issue.
Despite the desire of the Reverend here, I don't think you've got anything to worry about. Mr. Warren?
Yes, sir.
Do you see these two issues as being one and the same then?
I think at the end result is a similar one. It's just, I see that, I necessarily don't see a purpose for setting aside funds for 10 years. I don't know that statutorily, they don't have to come before you to go out and issue debt or take on debt for this building.
Oh, no.
No, we don't.
They're coming up here to explain their
We do
request.
have to get your approval
To
before.
set aside, to withhold funds into a special capital reserve. I agree with you there, sir, yes. That is
Not-
true.
Not for a capital reserve, but for any improvements.
Let's lawyer up.
Mr. Chairman, that's going to be my recommendation. Do you have to have an answer tonight?
Here's our challenge, is the next step in the process is on Valentine's Day to go to the state. Each month that we are delayed, there may be a good reason to delay, we run the risk of not having the construction done before, the new building done, before the revenues start going down in the James City store because of the DOT construction that is there. That is the reason why we're kind of, and when when we miss that month of revenue, we never get it back.
Well, my suggestion would be, Mr. Chairman, whether it's feasible or not, but I think there's a lot of miscommunication here, maybe misunderstanding, and I do agree that Mr. Gatchell and our attorney need to sit down and our finance guy with your leadership and kind of maybe work this thing out a little bit better before we make a decision. I think we're all a little confused here, and I don't drink. And so I don't even hardly have even to make a vote on this. But I've got to cast a vote, but I think there's a lot of misinformation or maybe misunderstanding, not misinformation, misunderstandings.
James?
Yes, sir.
You had something to say?
Yes, sir. I think at the end of the day, just to be clear, the only thing that the ABC board needs to have for approval from this board, and the only thing that you can approve is, again, to set aside the remaining grocery seats for a specific capital improvement project, not capital reserve or other things. They don't need your permission to buy the land. They don't need your permission to take out the debt. So simply for the purpose of setting that money aside for capital improvements. I think there's been two kind of alternative approaches as to how this can be done. I think at the end of the day, the net effect is probably the same. The distinction being, though, is only one way will be acceptable to the lender, it sounds like. And that is to allow the money to be set aside specifically for capital improvements so that the bank can be assured that money is going to be there for the next 10 years. That's the distinction, I think.
Mr. Chair, I got one more question.
Information that I think we just had.
That's very helpful.
I know Scott Davis, everybody say about the bypass in James City. Because once you bypass James City, there's no other liquor store. You can bypass Halby too. And the next entrance is in Newport. So that means they got to drive from there to Newport to get liquor? Because there's a bypass in Halby coming up.
No, you have
Have what?
you have a store in Havelock.
Yes, but the bypass will take care of that.
Yeah, but what he told you there was that's 5 years from now. At that time, they will plan for another store on that side of the
I don't believe it.
highway.
It's not fair. I don't want everybody back. You don't worry about money. I'm worried about people in the
It's
county.
not a question of being fair at this point. It's a question of what is best for the ABC store as far as operating with a store that's going to be involved in construction for 5 years.
And at the time that we were working, Ms. Liner, so it started with you, so I'll go back to you, sir. Mr. Tyson, Mr. Sampson, Mr. Mark, and the manager had a baseline, how much money, I'd like, the manager said, I want to build a baseline, some money here for the next 10 years. Chip worked hard to be able to tell me what I'm going to have for the next 10 years. Be conservative, it may be more, but give me the rock bottom so that the county will be able to put that in our finances. That's what we've done here for you. And I'm doing this so that whoever takes my job, and I might be quicker than I think, the way this thing's going, but we'll have that number on the wall. You've got to come up to this board with at least $650,000 a year. So, and we're going to do that. I'm hoping, sir, it'll be more, believe me, but I want, so that's the bottom line. Now, the bank gave us terms, very, very generous, I think, here, very, very reasonable. Good for 90 days. If we don't get going on this, that goes by. You need to know that. My next opportunity at the state level will be the end of March. Now, that means we're gonna be now sometimes in August of next year that this store will have a chance of being open. So I come to you with that. I don't want to let you down next year and everybody starts looking at me and saying, James City is in trouble because the construction cones are in front of it. And that's our number 2 store. Thank you.
I think we should try and conclude this tonight because we're putting the okay of this with the state in jeopardy. And as it's been explained so far, they have the right to go buy the land, and we gave them the right to buy the land. They have the right to do it. They have the right to have the store. And at this point, I think we should take a motion, and we have a motion and a second. I think we should take a vote on it.
The motion will be withdrawn.
No. Commissioner Dacey and Commissioner Jones had a new motion.
What was that?
Motion to approve.
Continue.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I just chime in just for a
Sure.
second? I think Mr. Shagnon, Chairman Shagnon, described our conversations well from the fall with the subcommittee. I think from a staff standpoint, what's important for us to understand is how does this impact the county budget? And the 165 certainly is less impact than what we were looking at when we began this deliberation. I think having a stable number over 10 years is beneficial to us because what I was fearful of when we were talking at 2 stores in parallel is that we're trying to find a half a penny or a penny on the tax rate in the budget in 2019, which, as you know, is very challenging. I mean, you're cutting stuff out. I mean, we've begun, good or bad, to live on that ABC money as a significant source of revenue within our budget. It's helped us keep a lower tax rate. I mean, that's the bottom line. Commissioner McCabe, I certainly hear you about the James City store. I live in Township 7, as I know Commissioner Tyson does and others. I think everything in that district is going to be challenging for 5 years, from whether it's an ABC store, a grocery store, a drugstore, whatever. I think what the ABC board, and I'm not trying to speak for them, what they're looking for is to minimize the impact and have something in place for when that happens, then to come and look at James City, which I'm going to tell you is a very challenging area to build. Number one, you got land costs and you have developmental challenges all on that corridor, which are only going to be greater because you're going to be competing with land for everybody that has to move because of the road.
Sure, I can understand it, but what about the bypass? Most people try to bypass going there to Raleigh.
Right,
They're not stopping at James
but
City.
the people who are going to live in the area aren't going to take the bypass. They're going to be commuting in that areas on the business sections of those interstates. But I hear your concern, but I don't think the ABC board, and again, I'm not speaking for them, they haven't forgotten. That's not a foregone conclusion that James City's gone forever. Quite frankly, they had some very advanced plans. Unfortunately, nobody could afford it, at the time. So my comment was, what I was looking for was stability in the county budget, because I don't want to come to you at budget time and say we have to raise taxes because we got to find $500,000 or $600,000 that we're no longer getting. I think the 165 was providing a stable number over time if this is the direction the commissioners want to go, which is what you have to decide.
What the motion, Chair?
I call the question. I think we've all discussed it. You can go up or down.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
No.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Department matters is next, planning CDBG Disaster Recovery Program.
Good evening.
Chip Bartlett.
Yes, I'm Chip Bartlett with Holland Consulting Planners in Wilmington. I'm here tonight on the subject of the CDBG DR grant. As Don Baumgartner had mentioned in the public hearing earlier tonight, Craven County continues to apply for any Hurricane Matthew-related recovery funds that we can. Craven County was notified last month that we've officially received $1 million from the state of North Carolina to perform activities associated with Hurricane Matthew disaster recovery. Otherwise, this program is otherwise known as the CDBG DR. The activities associated with this funding source would be housing rehabilitation, reconstruction, and elevation of structures damaged by Hurricane Matthew. If the county so chooses to accept this grant, the board would need to vote to execute the formal grant agreement for the CDBG DR program, adopt a budget amendment and budget ordinance. This grant is 100% North Carolina Department of Public Safety. It's actually HUD funds. No county funds will be required, so there's no match. Budget amendment and ordinance would be only be effective once the county receives back the fully executed grant agreement. So action request is for the chairman to formally sign and adopt the grant agreement and adopt the budget amendment and budget ordinance in order to proceed with the CDBG DR project.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the
so
budget?
moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Do we need a roll call on this?
Yes. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Gene Hodges, Department Matters, Facilities, Approval of Contract for Craven County Facilities Master Plan and Space Needs Assessment.
Good evening, Board.
Come on.
With the 17-18 fiscal year budget, the Board of Commissioners budgeted $150,000 for the county to contract with a consultant to prepare a facilities master plan and space needs assessment study. A request for qualifications, RFQ, was issued in October, and responses were due by November 1st. We received responses from 2 firms. County staff evaluated the responses and brought both firms in for interviews. Oakley Collier Architects received the highest rating for both their response and their interview. After selecting this firm based on qualifications, we began to negotiate a fee for these services. During additional meetings, the scope of the project was modified slightly, and a fee of $145,000 was negotiated. At this time, staff is requesting that the Board of Commissioners award the contract to Oakley Collier Architects to conduct the Craven County Facilities Master Plan and Space Needs Assessment.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. All, we need a roll call vote on this?
Mr. Chairman, we have some discussion.
Yeah, we can have discussion.
Where is this architect out of?
Their offices are in Rocky Mount.
Are they gonna be assessing the school, any school buildings as
These
well?
are just going to be the county-owned facilities. These are just like this building, the buildings that we conduct our operations in.
Okay, you don't have a list of those, do you? They'll actually be.
Well, there was supposed to have been an attachment here, I think that they listed in a section. If you look on page 1 of their contract, section 1.1.1, I believe they tried to enumerate there the buildings that we're going to be, that they're going to be including in the study.
Commissioner Tyson, one of the things we focused on, as I think Gene pointed out in this section, there's sort of a 3-part analysis. One's a full review. That's where they're going to look at everything from building condition to space utilization, all that. Then there's just a facility condition review, which is a less intrusive, and that's mainly for facilities that are either brand new or mainly used for storage, that we wouldn't have an active employee count. And then finally, there are buildings that we either lease or new, that we're just looking at space utilization, staff work efficiency, like the Veterans Office. I mean, we lease that facility. We just want to make sure everything in the inner workings is in line. We're going to look at every county building, but some of them will be just different degrees of that look.
So part of their scope, they'll be looking at a building and they'll say, okay, this building's in this condition and it's utilized at 90% capacity now, and in 30 years, it's gonna need 5,000 square foot more. For instance, like the Register of Deeds building.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
They'll be projecting into the future what the future needs.
And the study will look, they look at the demographics, your growth factors, how it looks like what do similar sized counties need for similar type of space, if they've got same growth factors they do, for, like a demographic analysis too. That's the part of the study.
Didn't, Gene, you ask for a 5, 15, and 25-year
Yes, sir.
projection on each building, Commissioner Tyson, so we'll see what it needs to be in increments.
Any other discussion? We have a motion, a second. Yes, Commissioner.
Totally, well, it's not totally off subject, but the building on Broad Street that we own, that we had a bid on, what's the situation on that?
It's currently an upset bid process. There was an upset bid. You approved an initial bid some time back. A new upset bid was received, and so it has been re-advertised again for further upsets.
That price went up, I believe, about $7,000, Gene, on the upset bid. Is that
I
correct?
believe our next round, the round that we're in now, the minimum is 137, I believe.
Okay.
And we have a number of people looking at it?
We've got if I had to guess, we've got 5 people that are actively, calling, where's my bid, what's my number? We've got 5 folks that I would say are interested, active bidders. It's kind of a wait and see. They wait till the last minute, they'll bring them in. It's a process.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Nays? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, Gene, this will be presented in January of 2019.
That's
Per our
correct.
previous discussion with the board.
Yes.
Next, the Finance Director, Craig Moran, for Department Matters Finance Budget Amendment.
Good evening. I have one budget amendment on the agenda for you tonight, and that is for the Harlow Volunteer Fire Department. As part of the county's disaster assistance grant application filed with Hurricane Matthew, the county opened up its grant application to include storm-related expenses incurred by our volunteer fire departments. Harlow Volunteer Fire Department was the only department that participated in submitting invoices totaling $5,950.70. At the end of fiscal 17, the county was awarded $72,321 that were on the books as a receivable at June 30th, and those revenues rolled into fund balance at year end. To date, all the funds have been received on this grant application, and so I'm here before you tonight with a fund balance appropriation appropriating $5,951 from fund balance out of the general fund into the Harlow Volunteer Fire Department fund to pay these funds out.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. I have one question.
Sure.
How come none of the other fire departments were participating?
I think at the onset of right after when we started having the meetings with the FEMA and state folks on the funding, they were invited to attend the meetings. I think some of the other departments were there. It was communicated that the county, in the past, we've typically filed one application, and we've allowed that for the volunteer fire departments to submit their expenses with ours. Harlow was the only one who contacted me and submitted invoices.
I think there was a minimum.
Yep.
There was a minimum enumeration amount, and I'm not sure that anyone met it except for Harlow and Craig, was it Vanceboro? And they filed their own claim, I
Yes, sir.
believe.
Vanceboro had some expenses. They opted to not.
Their
dovetail
total
on
claim was probably larger than the county's for the operations they had to run and sustain for that amount of time. So I think they dealt with FEMA directly.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Parker, Department Matters, Human Resources, amend personnel resolution.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
A review of Craven County's political activities restricted policy contained in Section 4, Article 7 of Conditions of Employment of the Craven County Local Government Employees Personnel Resolution reveal the policy needs to be updated and amended to take into consideration the Hatch Act Modernization Act of 2012, as well as to clarify and provide additional guidance to employees on political activity allowed and restricted. In your packets, you should have a copy of the current policy language, as well as the proposed updates. Essentially, what this policy amendment is requesting to do is to add in a section in the policy that basically states that employees would not be able to participate in activities as candidates for political office in any local, state, or federal partisan election while actively at work or in an active employee status. This section will not apply to individuals holding elected office as a result of partisan elections, such as the sheriff, the register of deeds, or members of the Board of Commissioners. Also, what this policy does is it changes the language regarding the Hatch Act, which used to formerly prohibit, for the most part, employees in Department of Social Services and the Health Department from being candidates in elected offices. And now the Hatch Act was amended in 2012 to actually lift a lot of those prohibitions unless an employee is actually 100% funded by federal funds or grants. Just to give you an illustrative example of how this policy would work, if employee A wanted to run for county commissioner, and that employee was not the sheriff, the register of deeds, or a currently seated commissioner, they would be required to take a leave of absence or resign their employment in order to become a candidate for political office. If employee B wanted to run for county commissioner and that employee was the sheriff, the register of deeds, or a currently seated commissioner, they would be able to be a candidate for the political office because this policy change that's being recommended does not affect those individuals. Do you have questions?
Well, let's get a motion first. Motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Is there any questions? Any no questions? Yes.
I don't really have a question, but I want the public to know that we've actually thought about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe several of us had conversations with the staff going into this, and this is an issue that has come up, and I want to thank you very much for your diligence in looking into this.
You're welcome.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda are appointments pending, current, and upcoming. Appointments will be effective immediately unless otherwise specified. Adult Home Advisory Committee, we have no one for that at this point. Craven County Aging Planning Board. Do we have anybody on that?
Yeah, Dora Jones, she's willing to serve again.
Yeah, Dora Jones is willing to serve. I would appoint Dora Jones. Craven County Community Child Protection Team. We have Gail Horn. Her term is ending. Mary Mallard, Department of Juvenile Justice recommendations forthcoming. Debbie Rogers, Medical Examiner. And Jeff Merritt, DS. Are all those people willing to serve again?
Debbie Rogers and Jeff Merritt need to be reappointed. Mary Mallard, I understand, is going to be retiring, but they will be recommending someone to replace her. We don't know about Gail Horn yet. They're still checking on her.
Okay, so we can appoint then right now Debbie Rogers and George Marrett, right? Jeffrey Marrett, rather. And Mary Mallard was to be reappointed?
No,
No.
no, she's waiting for retirement.
Okay. All right, so we have one there that we have to get, and we have to find out about Gail. Vanceboro Craven County Public Library. We have two applications. One is an appointment by the Vanceboro Library Board, as they have that privilege, and it's Denise Smith. And we also have an appointment by the county, a Julie Cannon, who I spoke to, and she's willing to serve. So I would appoint those two people to the Vanceboro Library Board. Upcoming appointments for March are Craven County Aging Planning Board, Craven Community Child Protection Team, and Craven County Clean Sweep Committee.
Chairman,
Yes.
your prerogative. Craven Aging Planning Board, if you want to do that now, Lydia Brown is willing to be reappointed.
Okay.
After the meeting, she's, get that done now and not move forward if you like.
Okay. We'll appoint Linda Brown. County Attorney's Report.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to report tonight.
Very good. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. A couple things for you. I wanted to update you on the schedule for February 19th. We'll have our regular County Commissioners meeting beginning at 8:30. When that meeting wraps up, we will be going to the Convention Center, where we'll have some folks from Onslow County who will be joining us. I was able to confirm that late last week. And they will be discussing the short-term detox center that Onslow and Carteret are already working on in conjunction with their hospitals. And then 12 noon, we'll have a lunch with the Board of Education for Dr. Megan Dole to update us on recent legislation, efforts to deal with the class size issue that's forthcoming. I anticipate that being about an 8:30 to 2 o'clock schedule that day, just for the commissioners' calendars for that. Any questions about that day?
No.
Okay. I was able to attend late last week the City and County Managers Conference for North Carolina. It was a great conference. I learned a lot. I was honored to be asked to be a panelist for an opioid awareness seminar that took place during that event. It began with Attorney General Josh Stein speaking about what the state's doing in regards to opioid crisis and how the STOP Act has been implemented to try to keep some of the pill form of opioids off the street. I, along with 3 other county managers, briefed on the programs our counties are active in related to this issue. I want to thank Gene and Amber for helping me put together a PowerPoint that focused on not only our September 22nd forum, but also our roadshow that we've taken to Vanceburg and Cove City, and would be pleased to take to any other communities that the commissioners would like, because I think it's a great program. The response was great. I was able to help several other county managers who were in the process of planning for their meeting, and some tips of what made it good. We also had the pleasure of hosting State Treasurer Dale Falwell, very energetic gentleman. Enjoyed hearing him speak. He was talking about the county and then the state retirement and health insurance programs, and how he was working on some things to strengthen those, and how they'd also made efforts to tighten up the finances there the Treasurer maintains. It was a very, very interesting presentation. And then to move on, I was made aware, and I want to make the board aware of a letter I received from the Coastal Community Action. Commissioner Theron McCabe was appointed as a citizen representative to that board, so I want to make the board aware of that. If you have any issues affecting the Coastal Community Action, Commissioner McCabe will now be your point person there. And I don't know if he wants to make any comments on that, but certainly a group that does a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unless commissioners have something, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Commissioners' reports. Commissioner Tyson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say a few days ago, I received an email from the president of the hospital, and he was just reporting to the board that there was a substantial amount of flu cases currently at the hospital there, and the staff was just really working diligently to process all these problems, and that reminding everybody, as simple as it may sound and seem, to wash your hands often, because that's how germs get spread, largely through your hands, and when you cough, cover it. And that's all I have to report, Mr. Chairman.
They also mentioned they had a curfew on the children,
Yep.
the ages of the children.
Yeah, they're trying to keep children out until this can pass, but
This has been a real bad flu
Yeah, sure has.
season. Commissioner
Yeah,
Leiter.
excuse me, Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
one more thing. I would like to, we do have an elected official that has been watching us the whole time here, and that's Alderman Bill Joyner from Trent Woods. Thank you for coming out, sir. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Santa Claus is here.
You ain't getting
I knew he'd have a comeback. Commissioner Leiter.
Sir, I only have one thing. If you haven't got your tickets or a table, or remember the ECAM function down in Havelock on the Friday, 23rd of February at 5:30. Mr. Eddie Ellis is coming into town to bring us up to date on the history of Cherry Point and Havelock. And if you haven't read his books or listened to him speak, you're missing out, because he's very good. So hope to see you all there. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McCabe.
Yes, yesterday, I'm pretty sure the chairman gonna do more talking on this. I did have a chance to attend the funeral for Grace Smith at the convention center. And we lost a good man, but yet he's also in a good place with God. And matter of fact, about 3 weeks before he passed away, me and myself, my friend, went by the store and I bought some stuff from him. And he came towards me and asked me, he said, "Do I know you?" And I told him, "Yeah, you Commissioner McCabe." So he asked me, "Anything I can do for you?" I said, "Well, I'm just looking around." And sorry was a good loss. And we all gonna miss him, our days to come. And please keep the prayer open for the family, because he had 2 daughters and all the people came there. And it was a lot of people. Well, I think it was standing on only
1,500.
1,500 gave out support for Grace Smith. He was a good man, but I believe that his 2 daughters going to take up his legacy at the store. And please go by, say thanks sometime, you know. Also, myself and the county manager and the assistant county manager had a chance to go by the community college in Craven County here. They had a ribbon cutting today, and they had a facelift of a new library, and it was nice. And you get a chance, go by and see. It's more than that, but I'm not getting detail in that, so you can go by and see for yourself. And I also had an opportunity to go by a tour of the Garden of Trent. Matter of fact, myself and Reverend, yeah, he was also there. I was going in and he was coming out. And I can't say that I was there because he's a witness. And we took a tour there, and they had they got 67 rooms, and 39 of those rooms have private baths for the people that has Alzheimer's or any type of dimensions. And also, too, is a private pay with Medicaid, stuff like that. And the room is real nice. Outside is beautiful. They can go in a wheelchair and walk around, but, you know, make sure somebody with them. It was in this tour. So it used to be the old New Bern house, but now it's changed. Now it's the Garden of Trent. And get a chance, go by there and take a look and see what's going on. And one more thing, the last thing, I just want to wish all the beautiful ladies out there and watching me on TV, have a happy Valentine's Day. And take care of yourself, and God bless each and every one of you.
Commissioner Sampson.
Yes, I'd just like to say that I see the gas prices inching back up there. That's important to me, because I usually go to the gas station. I can put a 20 up there and get it full. But now, I put a 20 up there and it stopped before it even look like 3/4 full. So that tells me something. And we need to keep on working on these gas prices. But since it is tough out here now, no doubts about it. This flu bug and all these people getting their flu, and the hospital is overcrowded. I went out there and stayed out there with my grandson. I took him to the doctor first, and the doctor gave him a shot, and then later on that day I took him back to the emergency room, stayed out there 4 hours at that. And I think he's doing pretty good now. He can get around. He went to school today. But like flu been working on me too. But I can just smile with all the problems other people are having. Because a lot of people's out here with that flu. And a lot of people are dying. And we need to pray for these people, do everything we can to help people. There'll be a time we need to help each other now. Because you don't have to look way over there in New York or Boston. You can look right next door and see people who need help and they're having such a hard time. Another thing, I'm always, somebody might say I'm always staying on these old folks' homes. But these old folks are still not being taken care of like they should be taken care of. These people, I know a few months ago we had some chinches in some of the places. And we got rid of some of them. I think they still got some of the chinches in them. But it seems like we can't get a lot of support from the state to go by and see about these homes. And we always using the excuse, as long as it's not us, and even if it's one of our kin people, we don't worry about that because a lot of us don't go out there and see them anyway. So we need to be concerned about the people who are not concerned, or some people who can't help themselves. And we have a lot of people in the streets now, and it's been rough out there this weather. It has been rough. People trying to get around. Been some cold days, people that live outside. But I can say without a doubt, Craven County has some great citizens. But we have some more citizens could help, but I appreciate the one that's all helping. They're doing a great job in trying to help these people that really need help bad. They're not able to help themselves. And a lot of times we worry about people trying to stick us. But if they stick us, they're only hurting themselves. But you did what you're supposed to do. If they do stick you, you did what you're supposed to do. So don't worry about somebody, you get somebody a donation and they go there and buy, well, instead of buying food, buy something else. Or you can give them some food. But I'd rather give them the money than have to take them to the store. But I'm just proud of Craven County, the way they look out for each other. We just need, I know we got a lot of Christians in Craven County, but I don't see a whole lot of them out in these homes. We need a lot of them to go see about these people who cannot see about themselves. Some of them sick. I go to one home, look like most time I go in there, the guy just about to fall out the wheelchair that'd be sitting there. And one day it did fall out. But we need to think about these people. That's like this new home that's opened up. I wanted to get out there, but I was a little sick myself. I couldn't get out there. But they ain't no home they need to fix up. A lot of them out there need to be fixed up. So much when we got some spare time, let's go by there and let's look, see what's going on. Because I imagine all of us might have to go in one of these homes one day. And I know you want somebody to come see about you. Oh, that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I just forgot one little thing, please. At the community college, I forgot the young guy's name, that he donated a statue of two kids on a bench, sitting down and reading a book. And it's very beautiful. You get a chance to go by and look at it at the community college. What's the name of that
It was
room?
the Siegel Family
Siegel.
Charities.
Right.
that-
So go by and take a look at it and take pictures of it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chairman Dacey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this evening, I distributed a resolution that was recently adopted by the Dare County Board of Commissioners. This resolution was included in your weekly update package by the county manager, I believe, last week. And I would, at this point, move to adopt this resolution this evening, and we can, of course, discuss it. So I would move to approve the resolution as it had been approved by the Dare County Board of Commissioners and authorize staff to make any modifications as necessary so that it reflects the intent of this board rather than, of course, the Dare County Board.
Second.
Thank you. This resolution opposes any change in the definition of commercial fishing operation. While there are a lot of whereas clauses here, I will, for the public's benefit, just read the now therefore be it resolved clauses. Now therefore be it resolved that the Craven County Board of Commissioners supports the definition of commercial fishing that has been determined by the duly elected members of the North Carolina General Assembly and reflected in the North Carolina General Statutes. And be it further resolved that the Craven County Board of Commissioners strongly opposes the unnecessary effort that is now underway by the Marine Fisheries Commission to re-examine the definition of commercial fishing and urges all coastal communities to adopt similar resolutions and encourages all residents to vigorously voice their concerns about the latest attempt by the Marine Fisheries Commission once again to redefine commercial fishing. This effort here is, in my view, tantamount to basically saying to a realtor that in order to keep your license, you've got to sell X number of homes within a year. And it also has the, I suspect, the unintended consequence of telling somebody that if they've got a commercial license, that, boy, you better get out there and fish your rear end off, which could actually deplete the resources that are available, having, I think, probably the opposite effect of what many of these folks are looking for. So with that, I guess I'd ask that the board approve this. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I'd like to say that I'm aware of the fishermen. I drove a fish truck about 11 years. And that was back then in about 53. And they were having a tough time then. They were working together, they had to work together to make a living. And they worked hard too. And I think they need every bit of help they can get. Because now, I used to go find sea muds, spot, croakers. That's about all you go just by every fish house and find plenty of fish. Now you go there, you have to go to all fish houses and probably get 2 or 3 boxes. And you're lucky you get them.
That's right.
So I think they need all the help they can get.
You finished? I just handed you all a
Do
resolution.
you want to approve it?
You gotta prove it.
Just a thought.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lastly, I do want to, along with Commissioner McCabe and the chairman, went to the memorial service for Greg Smith, and it was a lovely, touching event yesterday. Unfortunate that we had to have it in the first place, but it's a testament to the strength of this community.
Yep.
And how vital our downtown. Mary McGee did an outstanding job in pulling things together, did so with a consciousness to cost of the event. And Mr. County Manager, I want to thank you for your management of her and her staff and everything else, because it was a tremendous event. Thank you. That's it.
I second everything he said. I served on the tourism board with Craig Smith, and he was a gentleman, and in my opinion, that store was, without him, is going to be missed.
Yeah.
I handed each one of you a resolution in support of the construction of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I'm giving this to the county manager to look over, because this was made up by the Lenoir County Board, and I want him to go over it and make it up in the Craven County the way we would want to put this forth. And we'll take it up at our next meeting. Okay? And would the county clerk please see that the two gentlemen, commissioners that left, get a copy of that? Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend a Highway 17 meeting, and Highway 17 is noted as the 25th most deadly highway in the United States.
I believe it.
And I've been working with Commissioner Tyson and people on the MPO and Highway 17 to have that situation corrected. It's going to be a long haul, but at some point it will be corrected. During the meeting, I heard from Alan Thomas, who is director of the Global Transport Park, and he brought out the vision and the mission of his position with that park. I also had heard a presentation from Eric Evans from Edgecombe County, and it was revolved around a water and treatment plant. And that was most of the meeting, and then there was an update on the highways that are being constructed or in the process of being constructed, which I will give a report on at the next meeting. Highway 70 Corridor Commission meeting is the 22nd of February, which I am chairman of, and the next meeting will be February 22nd, and after that we have 4 more meetings, and I guess we have to consider when we will entertain holding the meeting here in this county. I guess it would be probably July or September. Okay. Unless there's any other business to discuss,
So move.
adjourn. Thank you very much for coming.